Hola, and welcome to a very special bonus episode of It's Just a Show where we're taking a little time off. We're taking a little relaxation. We're just going to talk about a little short this time around. Assignment Venezuela.
Yep. With Mike and the bots, seeing what would this short have been for, Chris? Is it a, come work for the Venezuelan oil fields, you wonderful Americans? Is that what this is?
Yeah, pretty much. It was produced by the Creole Petroleum Company, which was a little division of Standard Oil, I believe, at that point. And it was trying to talk up how good moving to Venezuela with your family would be so that you could learn a little bit of Spanish and, have a job extracting oil.
Sure. Have a job, work on company land. There's all these wonderful people here. It's great.
Now, when you look at Assignment Venezuela, does it make you want to move to Venezuela for a job more or less than Progress Island, USA makes you want to move to Puerto Rico?
There's no competing with Progress Island, USA, I think. It's been a while since I've seen it. I believe you got to watch that short with either Adam or Beth. It was not with me, but I remember Progress Island, USA just being the music was amazing. It made Puerto Rico look amazing, just so prosperous and gorgeous. I would move there in a heartbeat after watching Progress Island, USA. Not so much with Venezuela. Venezuela looks like a place where husbands lie to their wives. That's what it looks like. Not once, not twice, but a minimum of 3 times. This husband, in his letters that he is writing home to his wife, is like, "Oh, I went to bed early." And on the screen, he's drinking Cokes in the bar with his friends. "Oh, the poolside was so boring without you, honey, while I was looking at the hot babes online." It's like, come on, man.
The hot babes online?
Online, on the pool line.
Oh, okay.
Don't be jealous, Chris, just because I've been talking to hot babes online all day. I'm just saying this whole video is about a man writing a letter home to his wife about how great things are, but he's lying about all the things that turn him on about it. This is problematic for me. I'd rather move to Puerto Rico.
Look, this was meant to appeal to businessmen. Businessmen like lying to their wives. It's just how you win them over.
Well, if this is culturally appropriate...
You're not going to win them over by saying you're going to learn Spanish.
No. Well, they certainly don't spend very much time talking about learning Spanish, so that works out.
Exactly. Obviously, this has nothing to do with how appealing Venezuela or Puerto Rico are as places to go. I've never been to either. I can't speak to either.
Nor have I.
I've met plenty of lovely people from both places, but Progress Island, USA is by far the more exciting short.
Well, and I think Joel and the bots, as they're watching that one, are, they're totally into the groovy music. I'm already moving my shoulders right now thinking about how awesome the music was, right? And, Assignment Venezuela doesn't have that kind of groovy undertone. But it was released much earlier, right? 20 years earlier?
Yeah, basically, this is from 1956. Progress Island, USA is from 1973. So, the music's a bit different then. I mean, I don't know. There's plenty of great music from the 50s that they could have used. They just didn't. They just didn't have the vision.
No, they totally didn't. Well, I mean, maybe they thought that engineers who were looking for a career in the Venezuelan oil fields, although are they fields when it's on water? I'm not sure. But anyway, maybe they weren't going to be lured in by catchy tunes. I don't know.
Yeah, I know. Obviously, again, lying to your wife, buying used American cars. Classic even in the 50s.
Uh-huh. Mm-hmm.
And, I don't know, a job which mostly seems to allow you to become a tourist for a while rather than taking Spanish classes.
I mean, I appreciate that the company has hired somebody, brought them down, and doesn't just expect them to start work and know how to navigate the country right away. It actually gives him some time to visit his job and where he would be working. He gets to work there a little bit. He gets to learn a little bit about how all that lays. And then he goes to a school to learn Spanish for a month, because that's important. They mentioned that over 90% of the people who work there are actually Venezuelan and are speaking Spanish as their first language. So
he's going to be such a good boss.
Oh my goodness. Is he going to be? I mean, that's the thing.
No, he's not.
No, he lies to his wife. How can he be a good boss? He doesn't even do it well. Do you think she doesn't know? She knows. She knows.
She knows. She's got pieces on the side and she's looking to find more.
My goodness. And Venezuela poolside is going to be amazing for her too. This life does not look appealing at all from the wife's perspective. I mean, I can just imagine you have a home and 2 kids in the community, probably pretty close to where you grew up. Your kids are already in school. You're probably close to your parents as well as your in-laws. And then you're moving hundreds of miles away, thousands of miles away to another country where you have to learn another language. And she's not going to be working with people. She's going to be maintaining the home and, walking around in the community controlled by the company.
Yep, the company town that they're going to be living in. Ooh, boy.
I mean, she has they have the choice to live in the constructed company town, which is on company property, or the town just outside that's not technically owned by the company, but the company's basically paid to build all the houses and supermarkets and everything. So it's basically just a company town as well. It's just not official. Her choices are very bad.
Yep.
Her son seems pretty happy for the move, though, right? Like her kids look excited to be there.
Yeah, I don't know. I've never had that situation where I've really, except maybe for grad school, I've never really gone internationally for a job, if you see what I mean.
Yeah.
And I have friends who have, but I've never done it.
Even then, though, you were choosing to move for your own job, right? You weren't bringing a family with you.
Sure. But, I did know people who were in that situation, who'd brought their family to grad school with them. So I don't know, but it's never something I've done, even for myself, much less as a partner. And it's an interesting, thing to think about.
I think maybe I'm just projecting quite a bit in that there's no background information on this family that this was a discussion they had together, right? Or a decision they made together. And the wife is doing a really good job of reading the letters to her kids and talking about how exciting it's going to be to move to the next country. So maybe she's fully on board. And that totally happens for families as well, right? Like you're moving for one person's job and it's a really good opportunity for everyone.
Yeah. And there's also no sense that they're going to be there forever. I mean, they're not. In about 20 years, the company's going to be nationalized. And I don't think he's going to have his job anymore.
But it's also the case, if he's a skilled worker, maybe he would stay.
Maybe.
I don't know whether they went through and just got rid of every single American worker.
I don't know either. And I'm going to say, I am not presenting myself as any kind of expert in Venezuela or its history.
Oh, nor am I, for the record.
But I will say that we've nearly done this short a few times now. And every time I've thought about having us do it, Venezuela has come into the news for rather sad reasons that I didn't want to have to get into.
Oh, boy. Yeah.
And it's happening again, it's happening currently, but I don't feel the need to discuss it too much because what do we know? But terrible stuff happening in Venezuela because of the United States very often, and certainly in this case, that's one thing that's happening.
Mm-hmm.
It's just on and on and on. And obviously, this short doesn't not remind you of that fact.
Many of the riffs inside of the short speak to a very turbulent and troubled past in Venezuela for Americans in Venezuela. In particular, there's a black sedan following us, honey, or, these people were waiting outside of the bar to jump me, or there was a whole bunch of riffs about impending violence or that sort of menace, that menace right behind this guy. Though obviously that was not in the short. That's not going to make somebody move to Venezuela to work for your company. But it was certainly something Mike and the bots were pointing out. But those were internal Venezuelan politics that they were referring to. I don't think it was related to international incidents.
No. But they were also making jokes about the white devil coming to town, right? They were making jokes about America coming and influencing things. The colonialism of the whole situation of this American oil company coming in and extracting these resources and taking the profits and all that sort of stuff.
Which was a great contrast to the short itself, because the short itself was very much like, we're following modern labor laws as we're down here in Venezuela. Most of the workers here are actually Venezuelan. I'm going to be working side by side with locals, right? Like there's very much that movement inside of what the short is trying to put forward. So it was great to see Mike and the Bots kind of reining that in a little bit.
Yeah. And of course, they're all learning Spanish, of course. And that makes it okay.
Sure.
I mean, hey, at least they're learning Spanish a little bit.
And they're going to be learning about the culture too, right? Don't forget that. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. They get to see all the beautiful cities and
I will say, we'll have a link in the show notes to the Wikipedia article for the short, which is weirdly robust and spends quite a lot of its time analyzing the MST3K version.
Oh.
Including several citations and quotations from academic books that have talked about this short in terms of the politics of it and the colonialism, how Mike and the Bots address it, how they deal with it, how the comedy is formed in it. Like, it's weirdly good.
Excellent.
So go check that out. And it also will link to a few other things for the context of the short, and that's a pretty good place to start. And I don't feel like I could do it justice.
No, I was reminded as I was watching Assignment Venezuela of some books that I've read inside of the past that are a history of the Americas, but not told from a North American white settler point of view. It's a trilogy of books by an author named Eduardo Galeano. It's called Memory of Fire. And I love this author, and I haven't read it for like 20 years or 30 maybe.
No, I remember you reading these books repeatedly, even when we were living together way back in the day.
Yeah, he's an author that I don't even remember how I found Galeano as an author, other than like everyone, like at some point in time, I was reading a lot of Gabriel Garcia Marquez, right? And if you are looking for something in the realm of that magical realism, Galeano falls under that as well, and is another South American author. He, if I'm remembering correctly, is from Uruguay.
Yeah.
But he falls under the same umbrella, so is often hey, if you loved Gabriel Garcia Marquez, you might enjoy this author as well. If I had to guess, I think that's how I found him. And then got to read a 3-book trilogy of a history of the Americas, but it's told in like very short vignettes, sometimes in poems, sometimes focusing on a, large figure like Simon Bolivar or something like that for like a paragraph or two. But sometimes it's just, a person living on the streets of Rio de Janeiro, or it's a person on the ocean on a boat outside of Cuba. And it's all of the Americas, North America, South America, all the way through. I was looking for some entries in the 50s, the 40s and the 50s, just to see if he mentioned something about the oil fields of Venezuela, but there were lots of things happening in Colombia at the time that his narrative was focusing on more for the 50s. So there isn't really something for me to read out or anything like that. But I would, for our listeners, just if you're looking for a literary history that is a really excellent read and gives a very different perspective of the chain of events inside of the Americas, I would absolutely recommend these. They were a lot of fun to read and to revisit for me inside of the last week.
Fantastic.
And this is totally tangential. Like, this is mainly every time you and Suzanne on the Spouter are talking about translations, you talk about how difficult the job of a translator is. And like Galeano had a translator who pretty much translated all of his works, whose name was Cedric Belfridge. And Cedric Belfridge, like, he he just translated all of his work. And the book that I love the most about Eduardo Galeano is the Book of Embraces. And it was the last book that Belfridge was able to translate for him. And like Galeano has a really nice introduction where he just says, like, this translator's done all of my work and we have such a personal connection because of that. And that when he died, a part of me died with him, but a part of him lives with me. And it's like, oh, that's so beautiful to have such a beautiful partnership. So I was reading that and thinking about you and Suzanne and the conversations that you guys have about translation.
There is a riff in the short where they are looking at the planned community, and they mention Levittown. Do you remember the exact riff?
The riff is, it's just like Levittown, honey, but even better. And it's fairly early on inside of the short.
And have you ever been to Levittown? Any of the Levittowns?
Honestly, Chris, I can't believe that I don't remember ever going to a Levittown, but how could I not have? I lived in New York on Long Island. I mean, in Queens. Technically on Long Island. And I've been through Pennsylvania. Like, why didn't we stop in a Levittown other than it's just a town?
Levittown, of course, is a planned community that was built. The first one in New York in the 40s and early 50s, and the second one in Pennsylvania in the later 50s. And there are a few other similar ones made by them, including Levittown, Puerto Rico.
Which is amazing to think of.
I suppose so, especially because the original Levittowns were kind of explicitly racist.
I don't think there's any kind of about it. They were planned communities where they would not sell to anyone except for white people.
Yep.
So, I can't.
You don't have to.
It's astonishing to me that this is one of the things that was a founding principle of planned communities. Astonishing, not in the sense that I can't believe it happened, because of course it freaking happened, but also just how do we talk about these things,
Yeah. So I've been to Levittown, Pennsylvania.
What's it like?
I don't remember, because I was quite young when I was there, because that's where we lived when I was born.
I didn't realize that. Oh my gosh.
No, we left when I was about 2. Who knows? Who cares? It's not a thing for me. But and my father and mother bought the house, I think, just a few years before I was born, right? So not in the 50s. I don't know anything about what they knew or didn't know about the racial politics of Levittown and its history. It might just have been an affordable house that was perfectly fine for their needs. I don't know. I was there, I guess, eventually, but I wasn't there when they bought the house, and I was much too young when it's just one of those weird things where you realize, I didn't know growing up. I knew I grew up in Levittown, and then I knew it was a planned community, and then I found out it was a racist planned community when I was a bit older, and I was like, oh, that's where I'm from. It's one of those things that you realize, and you're like, oh, no.
Yeah.
It doesn't, I couldn't control it. It doesn't reflect anything on me directly, of course.
No, but it is one of those things where there are so many times in our histories where it is astonishing to think that the people making these decisions weren't looking so far into the future to see how it would reflect back upon them. Or when they looked into the future and saw it reflect back, they thought they were awesome. And it's like, no, very emphatically, no.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like the guy who did all of the planning for New York, whose name I never remember, who made all of the bridges too short for the buses to go to the beaches so that people who weren't white couldn't go to the beaches. Like, what the hell?
Robert Moses, but
Thank you. Yes, him.
And I think there's now been more complications to that story, but whatever. The basic point stands.
Yes. And it's astonishing to think about how their view into the future was one where this was going to look back on as the right idea. But the idea of we can build 17,000 homes in months or just a couple of years. like using a very systematic kind of way of doing it. Like apparently one of the sons was in the Navy and was looking at how they're using that very systematized way of building, and just like, we can build homes like this. Like we can build tons of homes so that everybody can have a home. Like that vision without the racial implications is kind of amazing. Like we can build lots of homes for people to have a place to be.
Yeah, no, that's true. I feel like it's a fairly nuanced thing that I don't know if I can articulate very well, because of course it's like, well, yes, but like what kinds of homes, what amenities are provided,
They had spaces that they would donate to the state or the local community to build schools, spaces they would donate to religious organizations to build churches, right? There's their tax write-offs right there. I don't think we look at these planned communities the same anymore.
No, I mean, it sounds miserable to me, but like other people like it, and they still make planned communities, of course. I mean,
they look really different, though.
I suppose so. The only one that I ever think about is Celebration in Florida, the one that Disney made.
Yeah, that's not the one I was thinking of, but
which one do you think of?
Well, my mother-in-law lives inside of a planned community area in Washington, and when they built it, they built standalone houses for individuals or families. They also built apartment buildings. They also built mixed-use buildings where there's apartments on top and there's businesses down below. They built a library space and donated it to the town, right? So, like, they planned the community, but they're not all single-family homes with yards and garages, right? They all look very different in terms of what they're offering to the families that are moving in or the individuals that are moving in. And it doesn't creep me out the way that thinking about Levittown, where all the houses are very much the same, like it's a variation on like 4 designs or something, and all the people who live there are the same, right? And they all work at the same place potentially. Sometimes that idea, like the Creole company town, would feel a little creepy, a little off. And I feel like that must be a more pervasive sense of it. Because I'm thinking of a movie that came out in 2022 called Don't Worry, Darling. Okay.
I don't know this one.
So it stars Olivia Wilde and Harry Styles.
Oh, good God. Okay.
He's not a musician or anything like that in the movie. He's just a husband. He's one of the guys who works for the company, and he lives in the company town. And like his wife, like, oh, what a privilege it is. She gets to stay home, and she has to support her husband who goes off to work every day, and she's going to stay behind and clean the house and cook the dinner. And, these are very important jobs. And there's just the entire movie has a sense of this entire community being off.
Right.
Like there's something sinister and off. There's one guy who's kind of, Chris Pine plays the gentleman who's kind of the head of the project that all these gentlemen are working for.
Uh-huh.
And it's just, he feels very cult leaderish.
Right.
To a viewer watching the movie. And so there's just a very sinister aspect of all of it. And part of that sinisterness comes from the planned community, where everybody has expectations of gender roles and everybody's house looks the same and your job is to keep it clean. And you have children that you're raising and they go to school in the same school bus. And there's a community pool where everybody goes to. And to get out of the house, what does the wife do? She rides the trolley for a little while just to get out of the house. And it just feels off.
It sounded terrible until you mentioned the trolley. The trolley does sound pretty fun. I wish there was a little trolley I could ride.
Well, of course, because then you think, Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood. I want to ride the trolley to the land of make-believe.
I mean, I've got a streetcar not too far from me, but that's not the same thing as a trolley.
It's not, but it kind of is. At least in Portland, our streetcar is also called the trolley. So maybe you do have a trolley. This is really a trolley, though. It looks like a cable car in the movie.
Well, I feel like we should talk a little bit about where this short even came from. We have talked about it before, but it's probably good to mention it in the episode about it. This was one of 2 shorts that was originally made for a planned CD-ROM, which we heard them talking about and getting us all excited for in one of the Turkey days. It was supposed to come out in 1996, and it was made around season 6 and 7, and it was going to be produced by the Voyager company. It was going to have this short and another short called Mylar, What's It to You? Which the Mads did at some point recently.
Such a great name.
Yeah, it was a fun riff that they did. That short is completely lost. This short was also kind of lost, like the master tapes were lost, but they did have something that they had copied over because they showed it at the Convention Con Expo Festorama 2 Electric Boogaloo.
Again, great name.
And then it got later released with one of the collections of episodes that Rhino and then Shout put out.
But it never was aired on Comedy Central at any point in time, nothing like that?
No, exactly. And for a long time, there was only like bad audience recordings of the convention version of it. But we have it now, and it's nice to have this little piece of history. We don't have a lot of details about what else was going to be on the CD-ROM other than these 2 shorts. I think there were going to be little interactive things. I don't know. I feel like I mentioned this before, but like, did you ever get to play around with any of the Voyager CD-ROM stuff from the 90s?
I don't know if it was Voyager CD-ROMs, but I must have played around with some CD-ROMs. Like, this is a thing that doesn't exist anymore, right?
Well, they don't make them really anymore, no. But the classic Voyager ones do still exist. Ask me how I know.
How do you know?
I used this opportunity to go down and find some of my old Voyager CD-ROMs. There obviously other things were put out on CD-ROMs, like you can get games and so forth on CD-ROMs.
Sure.
But the Voyager ones, it's a sort of complicated story, but Voyager basically fell apart in the 90s and eventually became the Criterion Collection.
Oh, that sounds like a really interesting transition.
Or they're connected anyways. They're all coming out of like Janus Films and all that. So there's a level of artsiness to it all. And that can be shown in some of the ones that I have. I've got a version of a film that's made into a sort of more interactive thing called Poetry in Motion, a documentary about sort of experimental American poets.
Right up your alley.
I had a few others. There was one that was like an annotated version of Mouse, the Art Spiegelman comic book.
Oh my goodness. That must have been amazing.
It was great. It had lots of behind the scenes discussion and so forth. It was like a commentary track type thing as well. There was a version of like Beethoven's Ninth Symphony where like you could see the score go by and you'd see annotations and you could pause it and look at everything and go as deep as you wanted to with that. And then the 2 that I'm sort of am most excited about, which were related to some sort of weird musicians that I'm a fan of. One was The Residents. They put out a CD-ROM to accompany their album called Freak Show, which was pretty interesting, creepy, behind the scenes of a circus kind of thing. And the other one was by Laurie Anderson.
Oh, yeah.
Called Puppet Motel. And I spent a bit of time today trying to get an emulator working, and it took many, many steps, but I finally, after however long it's been since these were at all playable on contemporary equipment, I was actually able to revisit the Puppet Motel for a few minutes before we started recording.
How was it?
Oh, man, it's so weird. I mean, okay, so like there are these interactive spaces with music and little it's all Easter eggs. Imagine if you were going through Myst, if you remember the video game Myst, which I think was published on a CD-ROM, which had like rooms and there were little like things that you could do and things that you could click on to make things happen. Myst had a bunch of puzzles. Puppet Motel just has a bunch of exploration to do and events that you can trigger and little animations in that very sort of FMV style of like different little things happening on top of each other that don't really make any, like barely make any spatial sense at all because it's the 90s and it's small scale.
Yeah.
But it's just got this like weird vibe. You like you click on a weird glowing outlet and you're taken to a weird hotel room where there's a painting on the wall and it's like talking to you and it's saying, "Hey, babe," or whatever. And there's like a little looping track from one of Laurie Anderson's recent songs. And like just the backing loop is going on. And you can click the TV and change the channel and you can find out more. It's just a weird thing to explore and listen to. And it's not clear that it adds up to anything, but it's just a vibe. And like, we don't see that kind of 90s style interactive CD-ROM artsy space that you go to and click. And
No.
it was really lovely to revisit that, and I'm going to spend a little more time with it.
It reminds me a little bit of some of the very early virtual reality games that my kid would play with, where they were just starting to get a feel for how the games would play. And you would be looking around and you would click on things and, you would click on the outlet and the outlet would fall out of the wall, or you would click on the control panel and you'd be able to put in some sort of a code to open up a thing, but you had to look around the room to find the code, or it's reminding me of that sort of interactive thing, or like the interactiveness. Like, I've never played Five Nights at Freddy's, but my understanding is from the videos that my kid has watched of playthroughs that that's part of what you have to do, is like look around all of the rooms and interact with things that are going and click on things. But obviously, like, video games have progressed quite a bit since what we were able to put on a CD-ROM in the 90s.
I've never actually thought that way about Five Nights at Freddy's, but it does kind of have a bit of that old FMV aesthetic going on, like in a more modern way.
Sure.
It does kind of have that sort of graininess and upsetting, slightly off vibe to it.
Well, it's trying to give the creepiness, right?
Yeah,
it's trying to give the creepiness.
And then it's going to give you a big old jump scare.
Yes, well, that's what you're there for. You didn't play Five Nights at Freddy's because it was going to be an idyllic planned community. You played it because it's going to have creepy cult leader involved or something. Like, it's a very different vibe. So the artsiness that you're talking about in terms of the Laurie Anderson one, is it from the design of what she chose to put on the CD-ROM, or do you think that's something that was kind of across all CD-ROMs that were being put out?
Yeah, both. She worked with a designer to make the CD-ROM. Obviously, she's not sitting there programming it or making it all happen, though it's using a lot of her assets, we would say now, a lot of the artwork that she had made and had put into her shows and all that sort of stuff. And some of it is just sort of the license to be as wacky and weird as you want to be. But like, the Residents one, I mean, they're also a weird band, but like also had these kinds of strange spaces. That one has a bit more of a, like, here are some characters that you might talk to thing going on than just explore this hotel. But I mean, it's partially an aesthetic choice. It's partially like you've got this medium that, like, there aren't fully rules to it, but there's like, here are the things that we can do. And also we're in the early 90s and like design is noisy and it's Wired magazine and it's throwing stuff against the wall. And
Chris, it's Jurassic Park. There's a CD-ROM in the, if I'm remembering correctly, there's a CD-ROM inside of the Jeeps that they take into Jurassic Park, where you can click on different parts of the island and you can learn about the dinosaurs you're about to see as you're walking through it. Like, it's a screen inside of the Jeep that's interactive through the CD-ROM that's there. So again, like, if my memory serves me correctly, like CD-ROMs, like cutting edge technology showing up inside of my Jurassic Park.
Yeah. So I would be fascinated to see more of what the MST3K CD-ROM would have been like. I wish I had it here and could finally, play it again after all these years. But sadly, it didn't make it in time. The things collapsed. The market fell out. People were no longer interested in CD-ROMs by the time that came out.
So it was never made?
So it never came to market at all.